everyone. Happy Pride. Thank you so much for participating in our LGBTQ plus adult book talk. It is an honor to be here to help kick off this event. My name is Joy Fisher, and I am the president of the PFLAG Westminster Carroll County chapter. And we have had the pleasure to partnership with the library over, I guess, about the past 7 years. And one of the things that we have done with this partnership is we began an initiative for LGBTQ plus students using the Gay Straight Alliances in the high school and going to them and giving book talks. This has been a great success. We've given out probably over 70 books to all the various high schools. Books are windows and mirrors, and it's so important that our LGBTQ plus students see themselves in these books and realize that the LGBTQ plus community is an integral part of our community and our overall society, and that they should stand proud about that. But this is also true of our adults too, right? I mean, we want to see ourselves in these books, and that's what the LGBTQ plus books can do. I think if more and more adults see themselves in these books, it sort of will help them feel a little stronger and maybe speak a little louder and advocate for our LGBTQ plus community. So I'm hoping that this book talk will serve you well, and you will find some books that you can explore, and that will give you the courage, just like the students, to maybe speak up a little louder, stand a little taller. So again, enjoy today's book talks, and happy Pride.
Hi everyone, my name is TJ Findesy, and I am a circulation clerk and library associate at CCPL. To start us off today, I'm talking to you about another TJ. If you love TJ Klune's previous book, House on the Cerulean Sea, like I did, then you have got to pick up his most recent book, Under the Whispering Door. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Described as a man called Ove meets The Good Place, Under the Whispering Door has the same vibe you loved from House on the Cerulean Sea. Mystical, warm, and featuring a found family, with the lead character rediscovering his own humanity. Old and new fans alike of Klune's writing will fall in love with this book and its characters. Klune is a master of taking his readers on an emotional journey, and this one is no different, examining both life and death with a sense of humor and a lot of heart. Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home.
Hi, I'm Erin Snell, librarian at Carroll County Public Library. How We Fight for Our Lives, a memoir by Saeed Jones. We follow Saeed's journey, beginning in the late 1990s when he was 12 years old. Saeed's journey of being Black and queer in the southern part of the United States. He begins by discreetly learning about homosexuality at his local public library in Lewisville, Texas. But every source seems to pair homosexuality with AIDS. Saeed wrestles silently with how his sexuality and his Blackness intersect without coming out to family or friends. But this changes as he continues his journey after high school. In this memoir, Saeed explores in depth his relationship with his mother and the complexity of other relationships in his life, family, lovers, flings, as he moves through adolescence to young adulthood. He dreams of going to New York University, where he was accepted, but his mother couldn't afford the cost, and instead he enrolled at Western Kentucky University. At university, Saeed comes out to the school community and then to his mother, who is also suffering off and on from congestive heart failure. During this portion of his memoir, readers are introduced to a series of his lovers, several of which mix sexuality and race in ugly, abusive ways. While dealing with heartbreak and violent homophobia, Saeed explores power and vulnerability, courage and fear. Saeed Jones is an artful writer and poet, a winner of multiple literary awards. His style and the form he uses to share pieces of his journey in such openness is what makes this memoir so powerful. Some readers may resonate with parts of Saeed's experiences as Black and queer, coming of age in the 90s and early 2000s, moving from shame to embracing yourself with vibrancy. As a queer white woman of a similar age, Saeed Jones opens a window for me to learn from the depth of his vulnerability that he reaches when telling his stories and his struggles and his joys. This memoir is a raw and emotional read. You will carry parts of Saeed's story with you long after you finish the last page. How We Fight for Our Lives, a memoir by Saeed Jones.
Hi, my name is Amber, and I'm a non-binary librarian, a non-binary librarian with Carroll County Public Libraries. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm going to talk to you guys today about The Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This, no lie, was one of my absolute favorite books that I've ever read this year, possibly one of my favorite books ever. It's this absolutely bananas story about a donut shop owner and her family, a violin teacher with connection to demons, a young trans teenage girl who's a violin prodigy, and it's about how all of these people and these beautiful women come together to love each other and take care of one another. It's absolutely beautiful and a little pretty funny, and really, really, honestly, incredibly well written. It's the donut shop owner is secretly a space alien fleeing an intergalactic war. It's about the Asian diaspora. It's about Asian American identity as well. It's about lesbians, space lesbians, and beautiful violin teachers with deep secrets. It's about becoming who you are and trans identity. And I learned a lot, incidentally, about violin music while reading this book, having only previously sort of known things about other instruments. I absolutely adore this book. It has everything that I really like. It's got sci-fi, really intense, beautiful character-driven plot lines. If you like Becky Chambers, or even TJ Klune's sweet and funny novels, you are going to absolutely love The Light from Uncommon Stars.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna, and I'm here to talk about The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. The Chosen and the Beautiful is a queer reimagining of The Great Gatsby that focuses on the character of Jordan Baker, a minor character in the original novel, but reimagined as a Vietnamese immigrant woman in the 1920s in America. Taken from Vietnam by missionaries as an infant, Jordan has grown up in the upper levels of society in the 1920s. Jordan has also grown up alongside Daisy Buchanan, and as Daisy becomes a very popular socialite, Jordan is part of her social circle. And when Daisy catches the eye of Jay Gatsby, an extremely wealthy man known for his incredibly extravagant parties, and they are drawn into a dangerous world of jazz-age parties and intense interpersonal relationships. And while the book does mainly, in terms of story, follow the storyline of the original Great Gatsby novel, there are lots of really neat plot twists. For one, this is a universe where magic exists in several different forms. There are some people who can cut paper to create living creatures, ranging from monsters just meant to entertain at parties to living replicas of real people. There are ghosts, infernal pacts, and some other forms of magic, all just inserted within the story of a classic novel. Also, if you read The Great Gatsby in high school or just for fun and thought, wow, this book is really not straight, then this book is for you. The description of the book identifies the main character as queer, and she has relationships with men and women throughout the story. The book also does discuss the experience of a Vietnamese woman in a time that was extremely hostile towards people of color, particularly in terms of acts passed against immigrants during the time period. If you're looking for a very strange but also very lyrically written, thought-provoking novel, you should definitely check out The Chosen and the Beautiful.
My name is Angelique, and I work at the Westminster Branch Library, and the book that I get to tell you about today, well, one of them, is Love in the Big City by Sang-Yum Park. This is the author's debut English novel. It was originally published in Korean and then translated into English in 2021. Love in the Big City is a coming-of-age story that follows the different stories of a cynical young gay man that's living in Seoul, South Korea. The readers get to witness the stories of his college life, friends, and love life, through his Tinder matches, nights out on the town, his fantastic roommates and terrible hangovers, and even trying to find himself jobs and boyfriends. Amongst the humor and good storytelling, this book also touches on the more serious issues and struggles of being queer in a place like South Korea, where it's not fully or really widely accepted at all. You see many characters out and finding certain circles of friends where they can be comfortable and be themselves and be queer, but still having to hide it publicly, and even creating tricks and just learning a system of ways that they can date while still covering it up when out and about in public. It does also discuss what it's like in the struggles of dating while being HIV positive. And overall, I think this book can be very relatable to many people. It's short and an easy but fun read, and will definitely leave readers with something to take away once they've finished. And I cannot recommend Love in the Big City enough.
Hi everyone, I'm Deborah, and I'm here to talk about the decadent and darkly charming novel When We Lost Our Heads by Heather O'Neill. When We Lost Our Heads is an historical fiction novel set in Montreal at the height of the Gilded Age in the 1800s and infused with influences from the French Revolution. The novel revolves around two girls, Marie and Sadie. Marie Antoine is the shining golden child of her influential father, and she's also the heiress to a sugar factory fortune. She's a very privileged girl, she has her every whim met, and she's very beloved by the community. Then there's Marie's new neighbor, Sadie Arnett. Sadie is the child of scheming social climber parents, and she has a morbid, dark streak that alienates her from other children and even her own family. When they meet, Marie and Sadie are instantly united by their passion and intensity, and they attract and repel each other in ways that light both of them on fire. Marie, with all her bubbly charm, sees all the fun and sweetness of the world, while Sadie's obsession with the darkness is all-consuming. Soon their childlike games take on a thrill of danger and then become deadly. An act of violence tears the two girls apart, and neither are prepared for it. They find themselves an ocean apart, but even as the years pass, neither of the girls can stop thinking of each other. When Marie and Sadie are finally reunited, the chaos caused by their reunion and personalities shakes the city to its very core, and change begins to erupt all across the city, whether people want it or not. A work of political and feminist fiction, When We Lost Our Heads is not only an exciting story, but a fascinating examination of how power looks in the hands of different people. We get to see everyone in the city, from the most elite man with all the power to a non-binary person working in the local brothel, manipulate the power that they have and use it in different ways. The book then doesn't shy away from showing how this power can be used to help, harm, or even destroy other people. At its core, this is a book about women. It's a book about feminine rage and desire and the way these things manifest themselves across social divides and classes. And despite taking place in a different century, the themes and topics discussed in this book are still highly relevant today. The social commentary it offers alone makes this book worth reading. When We Lost Our Heads by Heather O'Neill is wicked and whimsical, and it's an absolute must-read for anyone who wants to lose themselves in the terrifying power of the human heart.
If you're a fan of superhero stories like I am, maybe you're obsessed with the movies or the shows or even comics of Marvel or DC, then you have to check out DC Pride 2021 from DC Comics. This anthology is filled with short comic stories about your favorite heroes who also happen to be LGBTQ+, like Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Batwoman, Green Lantern, Aqualad, and more. This book features the first comic appearance of Dreamer, too, a character from the Supergirl TV show who was the first transgender superhero on film. There's also a story about the Justice League Queer, or JLQ, for those of you who are interested in a good team-up story. And if you're more of a Marvel fan, there's also Marvel Voices Pride, a collection that just recently released as well, with stories featuring characters like Iceman, Wiccan and Hulkling, some other Young Avengers and X-Men, and more. If you fall in love with these anthologies, like I know you will, keep in mind that there are new DC Pride 2022 and Marvel Voices Pride 2022 anthologies that came out this month, and you can pick up those issues from your local comic shop until they're collected in book form this time next year. These stories are made by the LGBTQ plus creative teams for fans, so please support them if you can, or check out these book collections from any CCPL branch.
Hi, my name is Ben Kahn, and I'm one of the authors of Renegade Rule. Renegade Rule is a queer new adult action comedy that follows a team of all queer pro-woman gamers on their quest to become champions in the hottest VR shooter around, Renegade Rule. And for Team Captain Amanda Cassidy, her whole future could hinge on whether or not she can win. So check out Renegade Rule from Dark Horse Comics, and I'll be appearing at Carroll County's Pride event this July.
My name is Jocelyn. I'm with Carroll County Public Library. I'm here to discuss the debut graphic novel by Lee Lai titled Stone Fruit. Stone Fruit centers around our three main characters, Ray, her partner Braun, and little Nessie here. Nessie is Ray's niece. Stone Fruit tells the story of Ray and Braun and their relationship together and their relationship as aunties to Nessie. Stone Fruit addresses the ups and downs of relationships, not just romantic relationships, but family relationships and rekindling sibling bonds. Other themes of Stone Fruit are identity, self-discovery, mental health and wellness, and the joy that the children in our life bring to us and the fulfillment they bring, and the impact they have on making memories, our relationships, and coming to realizations about ourselves and the work we need to put into our own selves. Stone Fruit features one-of-a-kind illustrations and character symbolism. The illustrations are simple, but one-of-a-kind and really convey a lot of emotion. Just a sample here without giving too much away. I sincerely recommend Stone Fruit. It is a beautiful and sensitive, graceful read that depicts real-world feelings and relationships. It is a bittersweet read, but you are left with contentment in this story.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I'm here to tell you about The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. This is a romance novel, and it is super fun. The Romantic Agenda is a romance novel about a 30-year-old asexual woman named Joy who uses her very successful fashion Instagram as a platform for creating a space about asexuality. She also happens to have been secretly in love with her best friend and coworker Malcolm for years, and when he informs her that he has met the love of his life, she is heartbroken. But when Malcolm invites Joy to a weekend vacation at a fancy cabin on a lake alongside his new girlfriend, she takes this as her last chance to win him over, so she agrees to go. But when they arrive at the cabin, Joy learns that Malcolm's new girlfriend Summer has also brought a friend, a handsome but somewhat grumpy man named Fox. And one night, Fox approaches her with the theory that Malcolm and Summer have brought them along on this vacation in order to set them up. So they develop a plan to act as if they are falling in love with each other, for Joy's case, in order to make Malcolm jealous. But as they spend more time together, they discover kindred spirits in one another. They discover that they actually have a really great dynamic with each other. And soon the fake dating of course, evolves into something more. And Joy begins to discover that her ideal romantic partner may be something else than she's always imagined. The Romantic Agenda is actually a really cute book. The premise makes it sound as if it's going to be about two women like undermining each other, and the book actually addresses it. The two women, Joy and Summer, actually become good friends with one another over the course of the book. The relationship between the two leads, Fox and Joy, is actually also really sweet. You'll get on board with it like right away. And another really cool part of this book is that two of the main characters, Joy and Malcolm, are both asexual. Through various plot points, the book actually does cover a lot of misconceptions that asexual people have to deal with on a regular basis, and discusses them through conversations between the characters. And there's also just a lot of real casual, low-key rep, which is always a nice thing to see. If you're looking for just a fun beach read, a fun vacation story with some really great romance, I highly recommend The Romantic Agenda.
Hi, my name is Amber and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm going to talk to you today about A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. So some people might be familiar with Becky Chambers because she wrote books like the Wayfarer series, so like A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and The Galaxy and the Ground Within, which I think is one of the most recent ones of that series. She's a pretty popular, hopeful sci-fi writer, which I think is a very underserved genre. She focuses on the possibilities that a kind of like a cyberpunk and like futuristic speculation can do for us. Like she focuses on like what we could be instead of what we are, which I really love in sci-fi as a genre. And she does just that in A Psalm for the Wild Built. So it is one of her novellas, so it is a pretty short book. And it's this beautiful, contemplative, deeply hopeful solar punk narrative about a monk who becomes a teen monk to kind of find themselves. So their name is Dex, and they are non-binary, and they just are non-binary, which I really, really enjoy in a book. There's no explaining of their gender to anybody. They just get to exist, which is really cool. And as a new teen monk, Dex tries to find purpose in their life and explores the world that they live in, and eventually comes upon a robot, a wild robot. And there's a reason why the robot comes to find Dex as well. So they are both looking. The robot needs to find out what humans need. And Dex doesn't know if they're necessarily the best person to answer that question. It's a deeply fun, incredibly hopeful book. Made me cry like 4 times. I love this. I truly love this book. One of my favorites that I've read in the last 2 years. You gotta check it out. Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers.
The Prophets, a novel by Robert Jones Jr. We know that queer people existed throughout history, in all times and places in which human beings dwelled, every culture, tribe, and community. However, the few stories from history that often survived were of queer people of wealth or power. Sometimes we learn of a queer person in the past whose story somehow escaped and seeped from the margins to be heard even today. Yet we know this is rare. So we are left imagining the possibilities. Queer people of all walks of life, their stories and experiences that are forever lost to time and erasure. This is what author Robert Jones Jr. does in his book, The Prophets. Isaiah and Samuel are enslaved by the Halifax family on a plantation in Mississippi. They are in love with each other and have been since they were young. The only 2 enslaved people relegated to the barn and tasked with animal care. There, they have the privacy to hide their love from the world outside the barn, and they can speak their love in actions and in words to one another within its walls. However, like light through knotholes in the barn siding, their love shines in ways others notice if paying attention. Over time, the other enslaved people notice Isaiah and Samuel, They're bathing at the river at nightfall and their way toward each other. They take to referring to them as a unit. The two of them is how they are known. Within the community of people enslaved on the plantation, that's just how the two of them are. And it's as simple as that. Until one of the older enslaved men gets permission to hold Sunday gatherings to preach scripture from the master's faith. Then things change. Sin and betrayal and cruelty within this enslaved community take hold, and the suffering and menace in the slaveholder's pale hands catches like a fire that rips through everything it touches. At times, the reader is taken back for a glimpse of ancestors on the African continent. Powerful women, including the female bisexual king who has to face the ugly misogyny that comes with the white slave trader. Yet whispers of a living love and the vibrancy of an uncontrollable hope are woven into the text and unfold Isaiah and Samuel. Author Robert Jones Jr. is a creator of the social justice community, son of Baldwin. His novel, The Prophets, is courageous and powerful, earning so many honors and best of lists. The Prophets, a novel by Robert Jones Jr.
If The Bachelor or other reality TV shows are a guilty pleasure of yours, I have another great book to recommend, The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. Dev is a producer on the TV show called Ever After, a program very similar to The Bachelor, where a contestant titled Prince Charming tries to find his perfect bride. Dev, a true romantic, is a pro at sculpting perfect love stories behind the scenes, but he struggles with his own personal love life. That changes when Charlie Winshaw, disgraced tech genius, joins the new season of Ever After as its Prince Charming, hoping to fix his public image through the show even though he doesn't believe in true love. Things get even more complicated though when Charlie starts falling not for one of his female co-stars, but for Dev, his producer. But even reality TV has a script, and in order to find happily ever after, Charlie and Dev will have to reconsider whose love story gets told. The Charm Offensive is a wonderful rom-com for fans of books similar to Red, White, and Royal Blue. This romance is so joyous, and it features figuring out one's identity with asexual representation. If you're looking for something quick, fluffy, and clever, check this one out. It'll hold you over until the next season of The Bachelor starts.
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren, she, her, and I am a librarian over at the Westminster branch. And today I am going to be telling you about Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. Set on a popular cooking reality show called Chef Special, Love and Other Disasters follows the romance between two contestants. Dahlia Woodson, a queer, recently divorced, self-taught cook with a mountain of debt, who quit her job as a newspaper copy editor to join the show with the hopes of reinventing herself. And then there's London Parker, a podcast audio engineer and the first out non-binary contestant on the show, looking to not only represent their community, but to also prove themselves as a talented cook and win the prize money to start a nonprofit. After an awkward first meeting and clumsy Dahlia taking a tragic spill during the first episode, one thing is certain. The attraction between these two contestants is undeniable. But London isn't interested in a fling, or any distractions from winning the competition. And while Dahlia has always known she's queer, she isn't sure what she wants in life, personally and professionally. However, as the two continue to spend more time together both in and outside the kitchen, their casual, flirty friendship progresses into a genuine and steamy romance. But as the stakes get higher and the producers intervene to spice up the drama, London and Dahlia's relationship is tested. Do they have the right ingredients for forever? Can they live happily ever after when only one can win? Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly is an own voice's delightful queer romance that is full of sharp, witty banter on screen and tender, honest expressions of vulnerability off screen, as well as steamy scenes that may or may not involve whipped cream and peaches. Oh my, you're going to have to read to learn more about that. No, but seriously, Anita Kelly takes immense care in addressing issues of transphobia, self-worth, and familial rejection, while also creating a cast of memorable characters that will stay with you long after you're done reading. This gently paced, feel-good, affirming debut not only made me laugh and cry, but it also made me hungry. So if you're a fan of rom-coms and reality cooking shows like The Great British Baking Show, then Love and Other Disasters may be just what you're looking for this summer. I bet it'll have you begging for seconds. You know I had to get one pun in there. If you do happen to be begging for seconds, be sure to check out Anita Kelly's website, AnitaKellyWrites.com, for sneak previews of the next 2 books in the series.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna, and I'm here today to talk about One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. You may know Casey McQuiston as the author who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is super good and super popular. So One Last Stop follows a 23-year-old woman named August who has just moved to New York City to finish her degree. She moves into an apartment with these eccentric roommates who are wonderful characters, gets a job at a 24-hour pancake diner, but every day she has to take a very long subway ride in order to get to her classes. Due to some family issues, August has become very closed off and jaded, and she's determined to go through life alone. But then one day on her commute, she meets a woman named Jane. And Jane is very charming, mysterious, very punk rock aesthetic, and she is immediately drawn to this woman. They actually hit it off and start talking on their commute. And soon, meeting up with Jane on the subway becomes the highlight of August's day. But she soon starts to realize that she only ever sees Jane on the subway. And as it turns out, Jane is not only magically stuck to this train, she cannot leave this particular subway, she is also displaced in time from the 1970s. And after making this discovery, August is going to do all that she can with the help of her roommates to figure out how to help Jane from being lost in time. But as August and Jane's relationship starts turning into something more, this may have the added consequence of separating them forever. One Last Stop is a fantastic book. It is sapphic and it slaps. Casey McQuiston's writing style is fantastic. She is amazing at writing developed characters and really great relationships. I am the most introverted person I know, and she writes really great party scenes specifically. There's also a great amount of LGBT rep in this book. Both of the main characters are queer women, and a lot of the side characters are also on the LGBT plus spectrum. And since one of the characters is from the 1970s, you definitely get a sense of how her time period was very different for queer people from the present day, and the book definitely does touch upon this. The main romance is also fantastic. The 2 characters have a wonderful dynamic. If you're looking for a great, really fun romance with just a little touch of angst and a little bit of a fantasy element, this is a great book for you. It's one of my favorites of the past year, and I definitely recommend it.
Hi, I'm Amber again, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm going to talk to you today about A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. So if you are familiar with Merchant Ivory movies, like the Edwardian era, very post-war buttoned-up kind of things, then A Marvelous Light is going to kind of be set in a similar universe, except there's a secret organization of magic users, which... love it. So this is kind of like a fantasy-ish romance. The premise is a man who thinks that he's inherited a small government position due to his familial inheritance, finds out that he's actually a liaison for a secret underground British magical society. And while it sounds incredibly Harry Potter, it's actually not. These are very much adults who are kind of just going about their business with their jobs. So there's a big haunted house. There's incredibly funny side characters. A very diverse group of side characters too. And some sweet romance at the end. It is a novella. It's pretty short. And it's incredibly fast-paced. It's not necessarily enemies to lovers, but it's 2 people who don't necessarily understand each other at first to lovers, which I do adore. I love a good misunderstanding. So it's super fun. It's a very quick read. It's very sweet. There's peril. There's magic. There's figuring out what you want and who you want to be. so it's super cool. Highly recommended A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. Gorgeous book. Lots of fun content, super quotable, just really sweet, and that's kind of what you need sometimes in the summer.